Again, here are the headlines. It's the top headline up on drudgereport.com. CDC refuses to identify where previous Ebola tests originated. They're hiding the Ebola test locations. And again, Drudge first linked to us reporting on the beginnings of this yesterday. Now it's being covered by Breitbart, doing a great job. Immigrants, again, we'll get to that news here in a moment. Let me hit this news first. Some of it, again, is up on Infowars.com. The most complete coverage on Ebola is at drudgereport.com. And also PrisonPlanet.com is covering quite a bit of it. And we're covering on the nightly news as well. CDC refuses to identify where previous Ebola tests originated. Tuesday evening, the CDC confirmed what we reported on in the morning to Breitbart News that individuals in the United States had been tested for Ebola. Those tests came back negative. You can't believe any of that. But the CDC would not identify the states where they originated. CNN's Dr. Sanjay Gupta reported Tuesday, that's what we reported on the Drudge picked up, that half a dozen people have been tested for Ebola. It's way more than that. And it's now being covered up. CDC gets dozens of calls about people who are ill after traveling in Africa. Economic Collapse blog reports. Should we be alarmed that the CDC has received several dozen calls from hospitals around the country about people who are ill after traveling in Africa? As you read above and below, a lot more Ebola testing has been going on around the nation. We've been hearing about in the mainstream media. And then it goes on to break down that people are collapsing from Liberia and coming to Morocco and coming to London. I mean, just a lot of scary stuff going on. And again, I'm more concerned about government response and using this as a power grab than I even am about the Ebola. But this is undoubtedly a real pandemic in Africa, now in 5 nations at least. They've brought Ebola, at least 2 people, into Atlanta. It's a serious situation. But again, CNN reported yesterday, U.S. health authorities concerned, and they've been concealing the number of suspected Ebola victims from the public. Ebola tested across the nation, government suppressing the info. Ebola, BBC reports, global experts begin emergency talks at the World Health Organization. Global health experts at the World Health Organization are meeting to discuss new measures to tackle the Ebola outbreak. The meeting is expected to last 2 days. And will decide whether to declare a global health emergency. Today, a man suspected of contracting Ebola died in Saudi Arabia. If confirmed, this will be the first Ebola-related death outside of Africa. The outbreak began in February in Guyana and has since spread to Liberia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and now to Saudi Arabia. On Wednesday, a nurse became the second person to die from Ebola in Nigeria. Nigeria's health minister and 5 other cases of Ebola have been treated in isolation. Sub-Saharan Africa's largest city. It comes as leading infectious disease experts have called for experimental treatments to be offered more widely. Let's continue. Ebola outbreak could be much worse than first thought. Johannesburg, South Africa. The worst outbreak of the deadly Ebola virus in history could actually be much worse than official death tolls reflect, the World Health Organization says. And again, they have a history of covering up how bad things really are when they're serious. Then when something isn't serious, like H1N1 5 years ago, they hype it up like it's the end of the world. But when we have governments as evil as this running things, that's the big concern. And why is the southern border still wide open? And why have Border Patrol agents, senior ones, gone public saying they've been ordered to load people up, vomiting with high fevers, you name it, from the Middle East, from Africa, and just let them come in on the buses, which is then increasing the surge of illegals coming in. Here's another one out of Reuters. Bodies dumped in streets as West Africa struggles to curb Ebola. Relatives of Ebola victims in Liberia defy government orders and dumped infected bodies in the streets as West African governments struggle to enforce tough measures to curb an outbreak of the virus that has killed, let me say this for over a week, 887 people. It's way over that, folks. Most estimates have been over 1,000 for a week. Sierra Leone deploys troops in Ebola crisis to control the border and other issues. We won't do that here, don't worry. Ebola virus spreads because of lax quarantine enforcement, says the World Health Organization and the New York Times. 5 new Ebola cases and another death confirmed in Nigeria. Now they're saying in Africa, God is angry with Liberia for trying to legalize homosexuality, blaming Ebola on homosexualism. Well, I'd blame it on airborne viruses that come from fruit bats that have been manipulated in bioweapons labs in the last 50 years, 45 years. That's on record. It's clearly been weaponized, and it's becoming more airborne. And by the way, if you're a new listener and say, hey, it's not airborne, mainline science has said for 2 years, evidence it's airborne, with monkeys transferring it to pigs in Africa in cages separated, in laboratories where they're separated. I think a lot of this testing and CDC stuff and UN stuff, undoubtedly these labs are becoming vectors for it, even if they're not trying to create it. It's no doubt SV40 that gave over 100 million Americans cancer on record was from the vaccine production. The question is, was it on purpose or by accident? Well, one of the developers of it told PBS television, we played the clip probably 100 times here, we got to pull it back up. He was interviewed by the Boston station, the PBS, aired nationally back in the early 90s, that, oh, yeah, we knew it was in there, but there's too many people. Ha, ha, ha. I mean, this is the type of garbage we're dealing with. What's shocking is how Ebola patients look before they die. A British doctor working in Sierra Leone describes the horror of the deadly disease. Giant purple blisters everywhere. Blood pouring out of every orifice. I'm not even going to read any more of this here on air. Maybe I'll get to it more so people know how serious this is. But don't worry, the Washington Post says global warming, even though the Earth's been cooling for 19 years, the UN's own numbers show, is the cause. You didn't pay your carbon indulgence to the Rothschild Bank, the Rockefeller Bank, so that's why this happened. I'm going to go to break. And I'm going to come back and get into the border situation, then the Russia situation. Ebola crisis spurs passenger checks as airlines still fly, Bloomberg reports, out of West Africa. I love this headline. Tuskegee students stuck in Liberia due to Ebola fears. WSFA, 6 students who attended Tuskegee University, where the government for 47 years injected black people with syphilis so they could spread it to everybody else at the same time, other blacks and everybody else, are stranded in Liberia. See, that's how I think when I see a headline. Oh, but the government wouldn't be involved in anything now. Briefly, don't forget this hour is brought to you by the great folks at MyPatriotSupply.com. MyPatriotSupply.com/Alex is where you find their biggest weekly, monthly, and daily specials. Not just high-quality, non-GMO foods and great customer service, but it lasts more than 20 years, and they're patriots just like us. 866-229-0927, MyPatriotSupply.com/Alex, because in my view, you're completely out of your mind if you don't have high-quality, storable foods. This is who I've chosen to use. All right, when we come back, immigrants using Facebook to find illegal border crossings as Zuckerberg allows it to be used for human smuggling and other felonies, while Facebook shuts down websites exposing the border being wide open. Facebook, all of them, are literally foreign enemy operations. You ask, why are we on them? Because that's where the war is. You go to the front lines, and you go behind the lines as well. And I am part of the militia. I wear a sports jacket, a white shirt, and a stainless steel wristwatch. And I engage in info war. I don't wear camo for a Southeast Asia war that ended 40 years ago.
Hi, I'm Dr. Edward Group. Today I'd like to talk about the war on women. You've experienced and heard about the benefits of Super Male Vitality. Now, the new formula has arrived. Introducing the new Super Female Vitality. I have specifically designed this formula to help the body naturally regulate itself without the use of artificial hormones. Key ingredients chosen from the highest quality sources. Each of these ingredients works synergistically with the female body in order to maximize overall vitality. You've heard the reviews and the feedback on how the original Super Male Vitality has revitalized relationships. Now, both the man and the woman can have the revitalization in their own bodies with Super Male Vitality and Super Female Vitality. Secure your Super Female Vitality today from our limited stock at InfoWarsLife.com.
Michelle Obama, who came out with other, pop celebrities, that's what they've sold her as, came out and, of course, said, don't say bossy, it hurts women's feelings. Don't call a woman bossy. You don't use the word bossy as a man because you're bad. And people are now saying they won't use the word because she's God. And if she says don't use the word blue, you don't use it. You do what they say. When they say jump, you say, yes, ma'am, how high? Because that's what a free country does. And you don't call illegal aliens either. You use the language they say when they say it, Buster. There's even video and audio of this. I want to get it. Michelle Obama now says women are smarter than men. First Lady Michelle Obama shared some thoughts about women versus men during a conversation with former First Lady Laura Bush at the U.S. African Leaders Summit in Washington, D.C. And she went on to say, women are smarter than men. What an outrageous statement. Some women are smarter demographically than other groups of men. But when you get to the highest level of geniuses, you can't even say who's the smartest. Physiologically, women's brains tend to have 3 times the connections between left and right hemisphere, so women are more intuitive and tend to be, a lot of times, on average, better at aesthetics. I mean, this is well known by sociologists, anthropologists. That's what they target, psychologists. But we are the same species. Men and women are together. That's why they attack both the normal genders, both the standard genders, is to end humanity as we know it, and that's in the textbooks. And so now, imagine if a president said men are smarter than women. Statistically, men are better fighter pilots. Of course, machines are about to replace us, so it doesn't matter. Because men generally have better eyesight, generally don't get as confused under pressure, generally can work in coordination under pressure, generally can operate better when wounded. Now, a woman on average can live longer when wounded. So, ooh, big difference. Men can operate better in pain on average. Women can handle more trauma, gunshot wounds, you name it, on average. Like it's about a 7-point increase in women. Same thing in female babies. They're known to be much stronger than male babies. Look at autism. The chemicals hit boys a lot worse. Because boys, well, it's a complex issue. The point is, it's all about thinking about how we're all different and not together. What an outrageous, bigoted, sexist scumbag. But see, she can say it. You can have rap songs putting down white people all day. You can have Mecha La Raza running around Hispanic Ku Klux Klan putting down white people as the devil. You can have the black first lady up there, or first whatever she is, up there, you know, saying men are dumb, basically. Oh, I heard there wouldn't be any more wars once women got into office. Now they run the State Department, just warmongering everywhere because they work for the globalists. It's a total front, ladies and gentlemen. And these women act more arrogant and more aggressive and more crazy than the nuttiest alpha males I've ever known.
Shouldn't the headline be, women are smarter than George W. Bush?
That would be probably an accurate headline. I mean, the point is that women and men today are childlike, so easy to manipulate. And I refuse to do it. But people like Michelle Obama do. I mean, women are, they're getting people ready for Hillary to run. Oh, yeah, I'm going to show you a girl going to get in. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I mean, it is just so transparent, so mindless, so stupid. And it's all sick. I didn't get into all the border stuff. Suspects in murder of Border Patrol agent arrested and deported. Mark Adams joined us, investigative journalist, to chronicle the incredible criminal history of the illegitimate run-for-profit or the offshore banks, Internal Revenue Service. And I talked to senior people in the IRS in Austin, one of the biggest IRS centers in the country here. And they admit it's all true and a total fraud and total scam, and the ultra-rich are tax-exempt, and the illegals are all allowed to be basically tax-free in many cases and launder money. I mean, this is all just a mafia government. So that's coming up. I said I'd get into the open borders situation. We reported on this a few days ago. Drudge picked it up first. Now it's in mainstream news today. But suspects in murder of Border Patrol agent arrested and deported numerous times. They were living illegally in Texas. We reported on this yesterday, or actually 2 days ago. So now it's hitting national news that they have been deported over and over again, and we're just rolling around robbing and killing people, reportedly for fun, and to rob them. So there you go. Texas eased rules for housing immigrant children. They can basically do anything they want with them and have no inspections, and no Congress can't get in. Nobody can get in. Overwhelmed by the arrival of thousands of undocumented immigrant children, the state of Texas relaxed its standards. That's called laws. The legislature, you're breaking the law. You just say now, like Obama, we're relaxing standards for the shelters that house them, mainly because the illegals are crapping on the floor. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just in the news. Governing how much space, they just won't use the toilet in some cases. Never had a toilet. I mean, I don't blame them. And why not? The EPA does it. Maybe that's the new sign that you're in the in crowd. You just walk into a restaurant, just crapping all over, crap on the table. I mean, why not? It's racist. Walk into a police station and just walk in and just crap right on the front desk, and then they're going to go. They start arresting me and I go, what? I'm culturally sensitive here. That was in the news last week. That's why they're having all these inspections and people are getting in trouble because there's just crap everywhere. But easing rules governing how much space each child needs and what kind of facilities they should have. Maybe that should be the new American flag. It's just somebody crapping on the floor. I mean, the EPA, by the way, when I said this a few months ago, people thought I was joking. Then I mentioned it again a few days ago or last week, and people were on YouTube going, I thought he was joking, till we flashed the article up. No. At EPA facilities all over the country, they go, the U.S. citizens, we're not just playing the illegals here because they grew up like in cardboard boxes. I feel sorry for them. They go to the bathroom at their desk in hallways. And they're not just lazy and pee on the floor. I mean, in Idiocracy, you have a toilet built right into your seat. I mean, that's trendy. No, I mean, you got to have a hipster beard, a hipster, hipster. By the way, there's a new article out. Islamic State's new icon is a hipster. And I saw this a few days ago and thought it was satire. But now it's in the London Telegraph. I look at so much news. I looked at it and thought, that can't be real. You guys, if you'll punch this up for TV viewers, it's so ridiculous. Islamic State's new icon is a hipster jihadi. Sword-wielding supporter of the caliphate is a university graduate from a well-off Cairo family. I bet you $1 million he's CIA or Ford Foundation or Soros Group. I mean, you can just look at it. What a joke. And, hey, they're carrying out Democratic Party operation to murder every Christian they find, slit the throats of non-radical Muslims, and just rule savagely, rolling with power like Akron. You walk in Akron and go, I got children I want to run as sex slaves. They're like, sir, you came to the right place. Time to run ops. And if you don't run child sex slaves in America for the Democrats, you're a racist. And if you're at the EPA and you don't just projectile crap all over the walls, you know what? Maybe when I was at CNN a few years ago for the Piers Morgan deal, and I'd been at the same studios before, and it was all nice a few years before, and now it was all gross while I'm on this scatological deal that Karl Rove, who listens in Austin, I'm sure loves. But I'm disgusted by it. I'm not obsessed with it like he is, with his nickname for the president, TB. I don't mean tuberculosis. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Turd Blossom, that it was like Jackson Pollock's all over the walls, green, brown, black crap. I mean, maybe that's what America is. Maybe you prove you're a Democrat now by just running around the street, don't even wear diapers. Back when no one in government dared criticize the IRS or speak on the floor of the House on C-SPAN about stories of them taking homes without even warrants or without even juries, jerking the diamond rings off little old ladies' fingers. He would expose that it was a collection agency for the private Federal Reserve that had been set up in 1913. And I remember interviewing Hansen back in the mid-90s, again, after 2000. I tried to get him on last year and again earlier this year and learned that he was in bad health and could not come on, but he recommended Mark Adams, who is his biographer. And when we look at what the IRS is doing today, going after hundreds of thousands of conservatives, libertarians, Tea Partiers, pro-life groups, Christian groups, land rights organizations, setting people up, arresting people, it's created a giant chilling effect. Where even mainline Baptist churches hand out letters we've shown here on air telling their practitioners, when you go to a church dinner, don't even talk about politics when you're having dinner. Well, I mean, the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And then it goes in the freedom of the press, the right to assemble for redress of grievances. So petitioning, all of it's in the First Amendment. More important, the founders believe in the second, but the two go together, like a horse and carriage, like an engine and a caboose. Because it's the pen that is so mighty, even more than the sword. Because the sword will fail if it's not backed up by the pen. That's the info war. Pentagon says 90% of war is now info war. They say soon it'll be 90+%, 98%. And so that's why we're going to remember what's been happening to George Hansen. We're going to look back on what happened to him. But first, we're going to start at present times and work our way back with investigative journalist Mark Adams, who, again, has a book coming out on the subject. And Jesse Ventura joins us in the next hour. We'll have news as it breaks as well. More on the border. Russia prepares large-scale invasion, battle-ready forces of infantry, armor, artillery, and air defense. That's up on Infowars.com. We've got some of the other important news up on Infowars.com. NATO warns Russia will use humanitarian mission as pretext to invade Ukraine. CDC remains silent on potential Ebola victims in the U.S. COP, if Obama doesn't follow the Constitution, we don't have to. There's video of that. Amnesty supporter hits protesting woman's car. CDC getting dozens of calls about people who are ill after traveling to Africa. 911 dispatcher issues insane instructions to woman whose house is being robbed. Put down your gun. That's the kind of news up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Also, Robert Redford has come out. He wants to be basically tax exempt. He's suing the state of New York over $1.6 million in taxes. And it's always the Democrats. If you look at the numbers, the congressmen that don't pay taxes, the big rich moguls that don't pay taxes, the Bill and Melinda Gates that get out of taxes, the Warren Buffetts, while lobbying to have poor people's taxes raised because they get it in government contracts. Truly a disgusting group of kleptocrats posing as loving liberals who have the moral high ground. Alex Jones here for Infowars.com. We're going to be intensifying our efforts to awaken free humanity to the scourge of the globalist in the month of July. And starting this July 4th, we are going to slash prices in a celebration of true Americana, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence on all of the Made in America products that you will find at madein1776.com or InfoWarsStore.com. We're talking about Made in America belt buckles in brass and nickeled brass that state it loud and proud. Molon Labe. That's why we have the best-selling Made in America men's and women's Molon Labe Infowars.com shirts. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a win-win. You vote with your dollars. You support the most hardcore organization out there for promoting true ideas of libertarianism, constitutionalism, basic human empowerment. But more importantly, you get T-shirts and belt buckles so you can meet like-minded people. So you have a conversation starter with friends and family and coworkers. We are reaching out to each other. And you also throw it in the face of the anti-gunners and the rest of the parasites out there that you're a free man and woman, and that you're not going to be a slave, that you're not going to be intimidated to shut up by their tyranny that they call political correctness. That's why in the month of July, we have got giant specials on everything at madein1776.com. But to expand the InfoWar, we're offering the biggest special in the history, 13 years of PrisonPlanet.tv, our multimedia platform. We're offering the equivalent of more than 5 months free right now when you get a membership at PrisonPlanet.tv, and you get 11 memberships that can be used with the same username and passcode so you can share it with friends and family. Now is the time to fund the war bonds. Now is the time to fund the InfoWar. Now is the time to get aggressive. Now is the time to double down. Now is the time to realize you are the people that made the InfoWar so successful and one of the leading lights worldwide against tyranny. You don't stand behind us, you stand right beside us, and I salute all of you on this July 4th, 2014, and going forward in the month of July and onward. This is about freedom worldwide and that desire for human dignity and self-determination that beats in the human breast. We are brothers and sisters together in the true spirit of liberty and the animating contest of liberty. And so I quote in closing the great Thomas Jefferson that I have sworn on the altar of God resistance against every form of tyranny. And never forget, if you are watching or listening to this transmission, you are the resistance.